Well, today it's going to be interesting. Pal is not your friend if you're here in the US, and I is not the same as P. Come on, folks, let's get with that. We'll explain it all today on today's show. Hang on. Okay. Let's check. All right, let's see. Check, check, check. Is this thing on? Yep, it was on last week. So it should work this week. We'll see. Jesper's here. Welcome. Glad you're here. It's really windy out today. Goodness gracious. And yeah. All right. Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Delighted and excited about today's show. It's kind of it's a one-off. You know how some of these shows are linked together. I guess this is linked in the same way all the rest of them are linked. It's tech stuff, but it's like, what is it? My wife used to complain, and still does. Not a bad complaint, but she would just say, you know, when we would get a letter from the Property Owners Association, there's an association that's responsible for mowing the grass in the neighborhood and all that kind of stuff. And we'd get a letter saying, you know, don't do this. And they'd send the letter to everybody. Well, you know, those of us that paid attention and read the letter were not doing whatever it was they said don't do anyway. And the people that needed to hear that wouldn't read the letter. Why not just reach out to the people directly that need that message and give it to them? So today is going to be kind of like that. You're going to get the message, and it's probably not intended for you, but it's intended for somebody out there somewhere, and sooner or later they might trip over this video. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. It'll be fun. It's always fun. It's always fun. So I just got word this morning, for those of you that are interested, and I'll mention this again later for those of you that show up late. Today is May 8th, and I have found out that the Bird Dogs, the new X1 and X1, I guess it's Ultra cameras, the wireless battery operated PTZ cameras from Bird Dog are landing in the US next week. Possibly, it'll be next week. Possibly tomorrow, possibly Friday. But so yeah. So for those of you that are interested, I have got my allotment coming in. Probably won't be until, no, they're coming in midweek next week. That's right, I'm going to be out of town. So I said, don't, as much as I'd like them, don't ship them yet, because I won't be here to receive them, and I don't want them sitting on the front porch of the studio here. So I've hopefully arranged them so they'll arrive the same day I return. I'm going to visit my brother and his wife with my wife. They live in Boston. I live in Alabama. Might be a little bit of culture shock for me. Might be. My brother spent his high school years in Alabama, so he knows what it's like. In fact, he knows how to make the change. I don't. But thank goodness we're not doing it in the winter. Can you imagine in the winter in Boston? Holy cow. Holy cow. But I can't wait to get my hands, back to the other subject, can't wait to get my hands on the Bird Dogs and try them. And I need to order some of those battery stands. I think there is just a DC jack on the back of the camera. And I think there is a mount that will attach to the bottom of the camera for stability, and then has a little wing on the back where you can put the battery. I'll have to get one of those or more. We'll see. Or maybe we can make one. That might be fun. I like those kind of projects. I'm always up for a good project. Yes, and I've got several good projects here that are stalled waiting on parts. So we will have to see about that. My favorite motherboard is manufactured by, well, my favorite motherboard manufacturer is ASUS, and they have the Z590 and Z690 and Z790 motherboards, but they have some pretty tight restrictions on what RAM you can use in those motherboards. And I slipped up and ordered the wrong RAM. So I have a ton of the wrong RAM that's going back today, and the new RAM is coming in tomorrow. So I've got at least one project I can finish up tomorrow on that. It'll be fun. It's a screamer. It's a little water-cooled guy, and well, he's not little, but yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a little 4K machine. So yeah, so there. So wow. Let's see. Everybody's gathering here. We're getting here one step at a time. Don't be coming in later and say, Tom, what did I miss? Get here on time. And here I am doing it. I'm telling the people that are already here early to get here on time. So that's on me. That's on me. And I need to turn down that notification bell. What is it? It is, oh, it's up really high. It's probably coming from Facebook. Let's see if we got a Facebook message here somewhere. This segment is going to be Pal is not your friend, I is not P. And Petra, let's see if we can get her up on the screen here. Petra is saying, we love pals over here. I know it's not the same color, but we get it done by crossing the P's and dotting the I's. And Bruce says, I'm more partial to systems essentially contrary to the American method. Not sure what that means, but yeah, we'll see. It might be something important. It might just be. Now, Jesper, you thought you had retracted that comment when really you meant to say this. Yes. 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 Good one. Good one. I like that. Yes, indeedy. Sure, Rich. Whatever you say. Rich, how'd your gig go this weekend? It was the first one, wasn't it? You were in North Carolina? Did I see? Something like that. And from the Mississippi coast, that would be the Gulf of Mexico area. Bill, welcome. Glad to have you today. Yes, indeedy. We're all showing up. Better, what do they say? Better late than never. I guess it just depends on how you feel about these things. All right, let's see. What do we got here? Oh, I know something. We're making a change in the studio. It's a project, so we'll get to it eventually. But you can see over my shoulder, oops, other shoulder, the poster from VMix to the Max. And that was actually gifted to me or pilfered, depending on how you look at it, from the VMix booth at NAB 2019. And I think it was 2019. Yeah, it had to have been. Anyway, I've got some others here in the studio. And also, we brought back from Amsterdam that year a full-size Dan the Banana Guy, Dan Sinclair from VMix. So we'll be getting him back up there at some point. We could probably do some LED lights with him or something. Okay, Rich was in West Palm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're 20 pounds lighter, too. And Jeep and Dave is here from the Rockies. Look at that Jeep down there. Dave, tell me about your Jeep. We've got 3 minutes left. A CJ. That's all I know about Jeeps. Although I watch. I bet you watch. Do you watch Matt's Off-Road Recovery, Dave? That is one of my favorite YouTube series. And I've gotten most of my family watching it too. My wife will say, "Oh, it's Matt." 93 Jeep Wrangler. Ooh, sweet. Let's do that. Yeah, he's a character. He is a character, and he's done a great job with his channel, and he's helped a lot of other people get started with their channel too. I really like that. I'm still using wireless. Yes, sir. Right there. Oop, I guess if I touch it, it thumps you, doesn't it? Sorry about that. But I thought that we would do a long-term experiment, long-term trial. So I have to remember it's wireless and it's also battery powered. So I got to remember to plug the batteries in when the time comes. So we'll see. One thing I forgot to check that I meant to check from last week was whether or not VMix 27.0.0.75 is fully compatible with my X-Keys XBE96 keyboard. There it is. There it is. And boy, I better hope it is, because I forgot to start central control today. Yes, I can do that. I can do that. Apologize for not getting that out. We've, you leave for a week and you're 3 weeks behind when you get back. So yeah. All right. So the question is, when I hit the purple button on the new X-Keys, is it going to do anything? And if it does something, is it going to do the right thing? Let's try it. You're watching the little countdown right there. We'll try to do it on 0.00. Here we go. 2, 1, go. Nope. Didn't do a thing. Didn't do a thing. Oh my gosh. All right, let's see. Let's try to do it. Can we do it manually? Is manual an option? Yeah. Maybe. Hold on. We gotta see how did we do the restart, cut to none. Don't understand. Oh, okay. We probably did it. We did it manually. Okay. So here we go. We're going to do it manually. You ready? And it didn't work manually. Oh my gosh. You would think I would learn about these things after all these years. After all these years, you should learn about this stuff, Tom. Oh, by the way, welcome to Streaming Idiots. we have now officially started the show, and yeah, so you see the workshop in the background, and there's a stack right here of gear, of components that have failed at some point in the building process. So periodically I go through that stack and send them back for warranty. Hello, Jonno. Welcome. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. So today's subject is one that's near and not dear to my heart. It's making mistakes that are simple mistakes that people like me make, because people like me are coming from a position of not knowing about video or audio for that matter. But in this case, it's video. So when I first started out in July of 2012 was our very first show. I was in a bandwidth limited situation. And so I thought, the fewer frames I can send, the better. 60 is too many, 50 is too many, 30 is too many. Oh, wait, I can send 25 frames a second. That's a great idea. I'll send 25 frames a second because it'll save me, 6 frames of video or whatever it was. Well, 5 frames. And of course, my video looked like poo for lots of reasons. That probably wasn't the only reason. And sometimes it had little lines running through it, and sometimes it didn't. And it took me a while to discover, because this was back, 2012. There weren't a lot of people that I knew that were doing live streaming that knew anything really much more than me. And the ones that I did know and that probably did know more than me, I didn't think I liked them. Sorry, Stephen, but I like you now. I really do. And so I had to learn the hard way a lot of this stuff. And I was talking to somebody last week who was, again, they were just sort of popping into it. They worked in a church, and they were sort of taking over the live streaming part, not because they had, I don't want to make this insulting, but let me just say it. Not because they had a tremendous amount of skill, but because somebody had to do it, probably. And so they were doing it. And they called, and they had a problem with something. And I said, well, okay, well, let's take a look at this and this and this and this and this. And in the bottom left-hand corner of VMix are some green numbers. And can I show you my green numbers? Probably. Let's see if I can show you my green numbers. Yeah, there we go. There are your green numbers. And we can, let's see if we can do this and do it effectively. And we'll just, hold on. We're going to go right here for a minute. And then we're just going to zoom in. We'll zoom some more. Right there. And those green numbers are key numbers. They tell us the frame rate, they tell us the resolution, the type of video, and the frame rate. So I had him read off all those numbers, and one of them was I, and one of them was 60. Yeah, that's right, I. And they had a camera that was a 4K camera that was coming in, not at 4K, we don't think. Weren't really able to tell what the camera was supposed to be sending, but it didn't matter because it was coming through a converter, a HDMI USB converter. And coming in, and of course the picture quality was poo because it was one of those no-name connectors. And he was complaining that the video looked bad in VMix and it looked worse when they live streamed. And I said, okay, well, let's take a look at your live streaming settings. So we looked at the live streaming settings, and they were set for PAL 50, or was it 25? I think it was PAL 50. PAL 50i. And so we had a long discussion about PAL versus NTSC and 50 versus 60 or 2997. And I'm not sure he got it because sometimes I'm not the best explainer, but he was having some issues, not quite as bad as this. Maybe more like, well, maybe not even, but if you looked in the left-hand column there, that's interlaced. Here's another version that sort of explains all the different lines of video. In the far left one, we've got the very first field, which is sort of a half a frame, but it's split up into 12 or 14 different slivers. And then the second frame kind of interlaces with the first frame so that you get a full frame of video in the other side. Yeah, here's kind of another way of looking at it. And so as we talked about this concept, he's like, how can I get rid of it? And I said, well, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the chain. The chain starts, in the case of video, in this case, it starts at the camera. What are the camera settings? And you can't just take any old camera settings. Hello, Gunnar, glad you're here. You have to take the camera settings that affect the output. In this case, for him, it was HDMI output. And then it was going through a cable, which in his case was probably not an HDMI 2.0 cable. It was probably an older cable. So he wasn't going to get 4K on it for sure. And then that HDMI cable terminated at a no-name, should have been a Magewell, huh? No-name HDMI to USB capture card. Okay, so there's one right there. Two things for improvement: cable improvement and the card improvement. And the card was plugged into. I said, unplug that card and take a look inside that little hole. You'll need a flashlight, and tell me what color you see in there. You might see blue, you might see green, you might see yellow, you might see black. And he said, yeah, it's black. I said, okay, that's the wrong place to put it, because you're not going to get good video through that port. You need to find a port that's blue or green or yellow or some other color besides black. So he found one, and he was astounded at the improvement of the video quality there, but it still wasn't great. But it was better. And he said, but I have an old camera that was plugged into this before. I said, well, let's try the old camera, because he bought a new camera because the old camera had all these problems. So he plugged in his old Sony, and it was as good as the 4K camera that he just got. So I was like, okay, maybe your problem wasn't the camera. We spent a lot of money on a camera when we could have spent $12 on a cable and $300 on a decent, USB capture card, or maybe just get a Blackmagic Decklink mini recorder card for $150 for just one input. But it was one of those situations where he didn't know what he didn't know. He only knew, well, what did he know? I don't know. But he didn't know PAL, and he didn't know I, and he didn't know P, and he didn't know NTSC, and he didn't know HDMI cables, and he didn't know capture card, USB capture cards, and he didn't know what port to plug them in. It was a cacophony of errors based on ignorance. Nice guy, best intentions, but just didn't have the information and didn't know that he needed the information. It kind of worked, but there's kind of, and then there's really doing what you want, which is, good looking video, good looking audio, No glitches, no frame drops, no crackles, which is the audio version of a frame drop. So yeah, so we talked about PAL and the whole reason for this 50 frames a second nonsense, and that it was typically used in Europe because the European power system is based on 50 cycles per second. And if you use a 60 cycle per second device, NTSC 60, NTSC 30, or 2997, or 5994, you are going to end up with flickering in your video. And that's actually what I got when I did my very first soccer match at night. I noticed this flickering in the background, and it's because the lights were on a different cycle. I think they were on a crazy cycle, like maybe 48 cycles a second. Never was able to get that one fixed. But you'll notice it with lighting. I mean, my lighting here is based on the American lighting system, 60 cycles, 60 hertz, 60 cycles a second. So these are going 60. The camera is set up for 60. VMix is set up for 60. The live stream is set up for 60. There are no 50s or 25s in any of this. As we were chatting, I said, you know, the real way that you want to set this up is to have everything the same. So you're not asking the PC or VMix to make any changes. If your camera is sending, in this case, 5994p 60 to VMix 1080p. My VMix setup is 1080p 5994. I'm streaming in 1080p 5994. All the monitors in the studio are 60 cycles, so they're doing their thing. It really reduces the overhead in terms of CPU or GPU, and it improves the quality. So we talked a long time about cycles. And then we talked about interlace versus progressive, because he was taking a what he thought, well, he didn't even know, but he had VMix taking what VMix thought was an interlaced signal and de-interlacing it into an environment that was an interlaced environment. And I don't even know what the outcome of that was, except VMix was like a squirrel just running around trying to fix everything real quickly. So if you're, I don't know, let me back up. And I have another client who comes from a TV background, and he and I have been fussing at each other, and you know, I said, client, you know who you are. Don't use interlaced. He says, but Tom, I have to use interlaced. I'm a TV guy. TV guys always use interlaced. Interlaced cameras, interlaced capture. And I said, okay, well, you know, you're not streaming interlaced. You're streaming progressive, I hope. And he said, yeah, I'm streaming progressive. He said, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing it on purpose. I was like, okay. So you're making the same mistake, but intentionally, because you know that at some point your output is going to end up on a TV set, and it's going to have to be an interlaced signal in that case. So two very interesting clients, kind of, well, one was a client. The second one's a client. The first one is somebody that was just calling for tech support and may end up being a client. I said, you know, how old is your PC system? He said, well, you know, it's been here as long as I have. It may be 10 years. I said, well, you know, computer years are kind of like dog years. Maybe not quite as bad, but something that's 10 years old, it's at least 50 years old in computer years. And I said, if you ever want something built right, and we'll teach you how to use it, help you install it, get everything set up, give me a call. We'd be happy to do that. He's like, oh, okay. Well, I think we have some extra money this month. I was like, okay, call me when you're ready. So there we go. So if you're just getting into this stuff, pay attention to the I's and the P's. It's kind of like the P's and the Q's, or dotting the I's and crossing the T's, because those are important. I's and P's are not the same. If you're doing all live streaming, you probably want P with everything. If you're going to do something for traditional television, yeah, then you already know about the I's. If you are doing frame rates, and yeah, frame rates in the US are based on a 60 cycle electrical system. So your frame rates are going to be divisible, well, not divisible by 60, but can be divided into 60 evenly, like 30. Now, don't ask me to explain the 2997. We just kind of call that 30, but not 30. And the 5994 is 60, but not 60. Oh, and the other thing when we talked about 5994i, he said, yeah, we're doing everything so 60 frames a second. I said, not if you're doing 5994i. 5994 will fudge and say that's 60, but I is interlaced. That means you're sending 60 half frames per second, which it translates, of course, to 30 frames a second. So we doubled the quality of his video just by changing that out. So he wasn't doing 30. He was going to do a real 60. And I look forward to hearing back from him after this coming Sunday to see what's going on. So for you guys just getting started, hopefully you'll stumble across this video. And if this just doesn't make sense, but you sense that it's important, visit my website, easternshorebroadcasting.com. Will this button work? Nope, that button didn't work. Doggone it. We got to fix these buttons. You'd think I would know about this kind of stuff. Let's see. There it is right there. So we'll put that on. And we got another one somewhere. There we go, right there. easternshorebroadcasting.com. And that will get you to me. There's a contact form there, and you're welcome to contact me. You can call me, you can send me an email. Don't think you can send me a text message through that, but the phone number's on there. And we can talk about this and how to set it up best for your system. Yep, we'll do this. We'll do this. Let's flip over to some of the chat for just a second. And GI says that his Dell laptop has black USB ports, 3.0. I did not know that. I've always used the school of thumb that black USB ports were 2.0, at least until otherwise not named. So that's news for me. I'll keep an eye out for that in the future. My USB ports, I've got a whole string of them, 4 in a row or 4 in a stack, are all black. And I know those are USB 2s. And then 1, 2, 3 others are populated, so I can't tell what they are. And then I've got 2 USB-Cs. One is populated, one is not. So yeah, I'm using a good number of USBs. And what's kind of fun is, can I get a picture on it? Maybe I can. I have my camera rack, my PC stand. Let's see if we can add this, if it's not already added. It's an NDI camera. And it is right there. There we go. All right. And let's see if we can move this camera somewhere so that you can see what I'm looking at here. 1 second. 1 second. There we go. And I'll zoom out just a tad. That'll work. So this is my studio PC. And you can see the blinking blue button. Just to the right of that are 2 USB ports. 3.0 based on the color. And then on the back side are a bunch of USBs. Sorry about that. I've got a light right next to the camera that's giving us all sorts of artifacts there. But you can see a whole row of USBs back here. And then, of course, these are monitors right here. And then just one SDI connection there. So everything's out in the open. And you might hear a little bit of wind noise in the background from the fan. Yep. Hey, Ed, welcome. Glad you're here. Yeah, gee, there is the PSF, which confused me. And then I realized I'm just going to ignore that until it bites me in the tail. And then Ed says, we also don't want to forget about the FG, the flux generator. And John says, do you know if I send YouTube a 1080p 5994 feed, does it get downgraded to 1080p 30? You have to tell YouTube that you're doing a 60 frame feed. So it won't take that feed natively. At least that's not been my experience. And it won't take 4K natively either. You'll have to set up a separate profile for that. Yeah. So there we go. And GI says, Tom says this stream is 59.94. YouTube says this is 60. Did you do stats for nerds in order to see what it is? Because they may be messing around with my feed. Let's pull it up here real quick. I'll show you what I'm doing. Let's go right there. And then we'll search and see if we can find our own stuff. Streaming Idiots. There it is, live. Okay, so we'll bring it in here. And we'll mute it just in case something comes through. And then we're going to get a picture in a picture here. But let's do stats for nerds. And this says it's 720. Let's go back here to settings. And it's at 720/60. So let's force it to 1080/60. And now it's at 1920 by 1080/60. But it does call it 60. That's true. I wonder if they're not just doing that to keep people from being confused so that they don't have to make the explanation about why it's 59.94 and not 60. Boy, I mean, you think, poor YouTube, they must get all sorts of people sending them all sorts of stuff. I mean, people like Tommy Willis are probably not making those mistakes, but some of the other folks that are just coming on board, you know, they're starting out. They're novices. They're newbies. Tommy says he likes my computer. I like it too, because one of the things I like about it, just to get off track for a second, Tommy, is that I can make additions to it very quickly. I can take things out, I can swap things around, and I'm always doing that kind of stuff. Ed says that it's common to get green anomalies when starting when starting YouTube with an AJ. Oh, is it common to get green anomalies when starting YouTube with an AJA Gila encoder? Sometimes it takes a long time to clear. Ed, I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue. But somebody here might. Somebody here might. And if you wait long enough, eventually everybody's going to show up. So Tommy says, being a genius is very hard. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. I don't envy you that. Holy cow. All right, let's see. Let's flip over officially to the post show. And so that means I need to manually run the outro. So, oops, didn't mean to do that. So let's try this. We ready? Let's give this a try. It might work. It worked. All right. So yeah, being a genius is hard. It must be hard. I mean, you think about it, every genius that I've ever met, they were thinking so hard, they would get their buttons cross-buttoned or something like that. They'd go out of the house in their bedroom slippers. All right, what's Ed saying? Let's go back here. All right, so YouTube comes up on his, let's go back to his first question, in case you just joined us. Green anomalies. It comes up saying something about interwoven signal, but I'm sending 720p. Well, I don't know about the the AJA encoder. So that would be, an AJA guy question. I'm not an AJA guy. Definitely not an AJA guy. Yeah, my wife fixed that one. She buys me bigger pants so I can fit it into it either way. Whoops, sorry about that. Sorry about that. All right, let's see. Well, let's see about the Ed. Have you just Googled it? I mean, let's just try that for fun. And let's Google YouTube green anomalies AJA. Whoops, AJA Hilo encoder. Did I mean anomalies? Yes. All right, here's one frozen. Here's somebody that's talking about it. Well, let's just say video anomalies. Let's say video artifacts. YouTube keeps creating artifacts that aren't present in the stream. Yeah, I don't see a whole lot that jumps out. I'm sure you've already tried this, though. Here's somebody that blames it on you. Your encoder is sending the incorrect video settings. Yeah, I don't know if I buy that. Of course, the one idea, Ed, is to call Aja and see if they have or maybe they have a forum or tech support chat or a knowledge base that you can search that is specific to Aja devices. I've never used, well, I've used a couple of times some Aja gear, but not enough to be real familiar with it, and certainly not any of the encoders. So I can't speak to how good their tech support is, but I would definitely give them a ring. All right, let's see. And he hasn't talked to them yet. Okay. Well, let us know what you find out. Bill has been using 1080p 30 and 1080p 60 when there's lots of movement. Ah, very good. And 1080p 30 with zoom. Remember, if you double your frame rate from 30 to 60, you have to increase your bit rate also. You may not have to double it. And if you're going to YouTube like I am right now, and you have a 4000 series NVIDIA card, you can use that new AV1 chip and probably stream 1080p 60 at the same bit rate that you were using before you streamed AV1 at 30 frames. Boy, I said that poorly. But I think you know what I'm talking about. Video artifacts are not good, Ed. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So you're not using VMix, because you can remote in and do that with VMix. I wish VMix had a dedicated remote access where I could take my VMix production, connect it to your VMix production that would be identical and operated. I mean, I guess that's just the same as a remote, but like, you know, TeamViewer or something. Anyway. Sorry, distracted by a message that came in here. Well, I'm not going to see you guys next week. I'm going to be in Boston on pleasure, visiting my brother and his family. So Ed says he does use VMix and Tricaster. And VMix and Tricaster are not the same thing. I've been telling you this all these years. And I have 2 Hilo units for redundancy. Yes, I understood. So, well, do both Hilo units do the same thing? Are they both set up with the same settings? Are you saying I when you mean P? Yes. Yes. What can I say? Yes, they're both set up with same settings. Okay. Time to get on the horn. Or start the stream, you know, an hour early and let the greenies let the greenies work them way out. I mean, I know you can send a stream to YouTube before you start it, and then start it when you choose to start it. That's not the way I'm set up here. I'm just doing the RTMP server. But if I did the YouTube, what is it in VMix? YouTube live stream now. I think YouTube live is not a thing anymore. Or is it? Maybe it's YouTube live stream now that's not a thing anymore. Well, they both appear to be working here, so no telling. Okay. Got it. Get it. Got it. Good. All right, guys. I got to run. I'm sorry. I've got to get some things accomplished today. But I loved hanging out with you. And we will hang out again together. Not next week, but the week after, for sure. And I may have some cool stuff that I discovered in Boston. Yeah. All right. Let's see what we can do. How can we gracefully get out of this thing? Do we have a graceful exit button? Everybody needs a graceful exit button. Here's mine. See ya.